Dr. Minho wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stepped deeper into the underground ruins. The air felt thick and strange on planet Kepler 442b. His boots echoed against the smooth stone floors that seemed to glow with their own light. Behind him, his teammate Jiwon carried the scanning equipment, her face showing worry. "Minho, these readings are off the charts," Jiwon whispered. "Maybe we should go back and get more help." But Minho couldn't turn back now. They had been searching these ancient ruins for weeks, looking for clues about the civilization that once lived here. Every scientist in the galaxy wanted to know what happened to the people who built these incredible structures. The corridor opened into a massive chamber that took Minho's breath away. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that pulsed with soft blue light. Strange symbols covered every surface, glowing and fading like a slow heartbeat. In the center of the room stood something that made Minho's heart race. It looked like a bed made of the same glowing crystal, but inside it lay a figure. Not human. That was clear immediately. The being had skin that seemed to shine with its own inner light, pale as moonlight but somehow warm-looking. Long silver hair spread around a face that looked peaceful in sleep. The figure wore clothes made of material that seemed to flow like water, even while perfectly still. "What is that?" Jiwon gasped, dropping her equipment bag. Minho moved closer, his scientist mind racing with questions. The being looked almost human, but clearly wasn't. The bone structure was too delicate, the limbs too graceful. Most shocking of all, the figure seemed to be breathing, even after what must have been centuries. The crystal bed hummed with energy that Minho could feel in his bones. Panels around the base showed symbols that shifted and changed as he watched. Some looked like star maps, others like mathematical equations beyond anything humans had discovered. "Don't touch anything," Jiwon warned, but her voice sounded far away. Minho found himself drawn to a panel that seemed different from the others. The symbols on it were simpler, almost like they were meant to be understood. His hand moved toward it almost without his permission. "Minho, no!" Jiwon shouted. But it was too late. His fingers touched the smooth surface of the panel, and immediately, the entire chamber filled with brilliant light. The humming grew louder, becoming almost musical. The crystal bed began to glow brighter, and the figure inside stirred. Minho couldn't move, couldn't look away, as the being's eyes slowly opened. They were the most beautiful eyes he had ever seen, like looking into deep space filled with stars. Ancient, wise, and somehow sad. The being sat up slowly, gracefully, and looked directly at Minho. When their eyes met, he felt something he had never experienced before. It was like someone gently touching his mind, not invading, but asking permission. "To enter." "Who are you?" Minho whispered. The being's lips didn't move, but somehow he heard an answer in his mind, spoken in a voice like wind chimes. "I am the last of my people. I have been waiting for someone like you to wake me." Jiwon grabbed Minho's arm, trying to pull him away, but he couldn't move. The being's presence filled his thoughts with warmth and something that felt like hope, mixed with desperate need. "How long have you been sleeping?" Minho asked. 100 of your years," came the reply. "Waiting for someone pure enough of heart to break the seal that kept me safe." The voice in Minho's head was gentle, but filled with a sadness that made his chest ache. "My name is Naya," she said, without moving her lips. "I know this must be frightening for you." Minho shook his head, surprised by his own calmness. "It's not frightening, it's amazing. How are you speaking in my mind?" Naya slowly stood up from the crystal bed, her movements flowing like water. She was taller than Minho had expected, and her presence filled the chamber with a sense of ancient wisdom. "My people, the ethereals, could communicate through thought. It is how we shared knowledge and emotions across the stars." "Ethereals," Jiwon whispered from behind Minho, her voice shaking. "I've never heard of that species in any galactic database." Naya's expression grew even sadder. "That is because we are gone, all of us except for me. We were the guardians of this galaxy, protecting younger civilizations from threats they couldn't understand. For thousands of years, we watched over worlds like caring parents." Minho felt waves of emotion flowing from Naya's mind into his. Images flashed before his eyes, beautiful cities floating among the stars, beings of light helping primitive species learn to use tools, great battles fought in the darkness of space. "What happened to your people?" Minho asked, though part of him already dreaded the answer. "Darkness came," Naya replied, "and the temperature in the chamber seemed to drop. Creatures from beyond our understanding, beings that feed on consciousness itself. They swept through the galaxy like a plague, consuming the minds of entire worlds. My people fought them, but we were not prepared for such evil." Jiwon stepped closer, her scientific curiosity overcoming her fear. "You said you've been sleeping for 100 years. Why? How?" Naya looked at her kindly but continued speaking mainly to Minho's mind. "When defeat became certain, the wisest among us created hiding places throughout the galaxy. Chambers like this one, protected by seals that could only be broken by beings with pure intentions. I volunteered to sleep, to wait for someone who might be worthy of our knowledge." "But why me?" Minho asked. "I'm just a scientist. I came here looking for old artifacts, not to save the galaxy." "That is exactly why," Naya smiled, and Minho felt warmth spread through his thoughts. "You seek knowledge for its own sake, not for power or wealth. When you touched the panel, the seal read your heart. It found no greed, no desire to conquer or control, only curiosity and wonder." Jiwon checked her instruments and gasped. "Minho, look at these readings. Energy signatures are spiking all across this sector of space. It's like her awakening sent out some kind of signal." Naya's expression turned grave. "She is right. My awakening has announced my presence to all who can sense such things. The knowledge I carry, the secrets of my people, there are those who would kill for such power." "What kind of knowledge?" Minho asked. "The locations of other hiding places, technologies that could reshape civilizations, and most importantly, the only known methods for fighting the darkness that destroyed my people." Naya looked directly into Minho's eyes. "Because they are coming back. The creatures that consumed my world are returning, and this time they hunger for Earth." The chamber suddenly felt much colder, and Minho realized that waking Naya might have just put every human in the galaxy in terrible danger. The warning alarms on Jiwon's equipment began screaming just hours after Naya's awakening. Red lights flashed across her scanner screens as she frantically tried to understand what she was seeing. "Minho, you need to see this," she called out, her voice tight with fear. "Something is moving through space toward us. Fast." Naya, who had been resting against the crystal chamber, suddenly went rigid. Her luminescent skin flickered like a dying light bulb. "They felt me wake up," she whispered, and Minho could hear the terror in her mental voice. "The Devourers know I'm here." "What exactly are these Devourers?" Minho asked, though he wasn't sure he wanted to know the answer. Images flooded his mind from Naya, creatures that weren't quite solid, moving through space like living shadows. They had no real form, shifting and twisting as they moved, but their hunger was real enough. Minho saw worlds where entire populations sat motionless, their eyes empty and lifeless. "They eat minds," Naya explained, her mental voice growing weaker. "Not bodies, not souls, consciousness itself. They drain the ability to think, to feel, to dream. What's left behind isn't dead, but it isn't alive either." Jiwon's hands shook as she worked her instruments. "How long do we have?" "At their current speed, maybe 6 hours before they reach this planet," Naya replied. "But I'm too weak. A century of sleep has left me drained. I cannot access the hidden knowledge my people left behind. The codes, the weapons, the safe places, they're all locked away in my mind until I recover my strength." That's when their teammate Hyun came running into the chamber. He had been setting up their communication equipment on the surface, and his face was flushed from the sprint underground. "Minho, what's going on down here?" Hyun demanded, staring at Naya with wide eyes. "Our sensors are detecting massive energy readings, and there's something approaching the system that doesn't match any known ship design." "It's complicated." Minho started, but Hyun was already reaching for his emergency communicator. "I'm calling this in to the Galactic Council immediately. This is way beyond our mission parameters. We need military backup now." "Wait," Minho grabbed Hyun's wrist. "You can't do that." "What do you mean I can't? There's an unknown alien entity here and potentially hostile forces approaching. Protocol requires immediate notification of the authorities." Naya struggled to her feet, looking at Hyun with desperate eyes. If you contact your government, they will take me away. They will want to study me, question me, use me. The Devourers will follow wherever I go, and your authorities will not believe the danger until it's too late. Hyun looked between Minho and Naya, confusion clear on his face. This is insane. We can't just hide a first contact situation. The Council has resources, weapons, entire fleets that could protect her. Fleets that will be useless against creatures that eat thoughts, Minho said quietly. Hyun, I know this sounds crazy, but I think she's telling the truth. Look at her. Does she seem like a threat to you? That's not the point, Hyun argued, but his grip on the communicator loosened slightly. We have procedures for a reason. Naya stepped forward, her voice entering all their minds now. In 3 hours, the first Devourer scout will reach this world's outer atmosphere. If I am trapped here by your authorities, everyone on this planet will be consumed. Their children, their families, everyone they love, gone. Minho looked at his longtime friend and colleague. They had worked together for years, trusted each other completely. Now he was asking Hyun to throw away everything they had been trained to do. Please, Minho said, give me 1 day, just 1 day to help her recover enough to access her people's knowledge. If I'm wrong, you can report everything then. Hyun stared. At the communicator in his hand, the weight of the decision crushing down on him. The sound of military ships landing shook the ground above them. Hyun had kept his promise for exactly 2 hours before his training took over, and he called in the Discovery. Now armed soldiers were rappelling into the ruins, their heavy boots echoing through the ancient corridors. This way, Minho whispered, urgently, helping Naya through a narrow passage he had mapped during their initial exploration. Her strength was slowly returning, but she still moved carefully, like someone recovering from a long illness. Minho, wait for me, called Sora, their team's pilot, as she caught up with them carrying emergency supplies. Unlike Hyun, she had listened to Naya's warnings and believed them. I saw the ships coming down, 3 military cruisers and what looked like a science vessel. They're not here for a friendly chat. Behind them they could hear voices shouting orders and the whine of scanning equipment. The soldiers were moving fast, following the energy signatures that Naya couldn't help but emit. Can you hide your energy somehow? Minho asked as they climbed through a crack in the ancient wall. Not completely, Naya replied, her mental voice strained with effort. It's like asking you to stop your heart from beating. The energy is part of who I am. They emerged from the ruins into the pale light of Kepler 442b's twin suns. Sora's small research ship sat waiting in a clearing, its engines already warming up. She had prepared it for a quick escape, while Hyun was still arguing with himself about protocol. Where can we go? Sora asked as they climbed aboard. They'll track us wherever we run. Naya closed her eyes as the ship lifted off, her face showing. Deep concentration. Earth, she said finally. We must go to Earth. Earth, Minho frowned. That's weeks away, even with our fastest engines. Why there? As Sora piloted them away from the planet, dodging the military ships that were now chasing them, Naya began to explain. Her mental voice grew stronger as the distance from her crystal chamber increased. Long ago, when my people still watched over the galaxy, we studied many young species. Most showed promise but lacked something essential, the ability to maintain individual thought under extreme pressure. When the Devourers attack, most beings simply surrender their consciousness without a fight. Minho felt images flowing from Naya's mind, various alien species simply lying down and accepting their fate as the shadow creatures approached. Their minds offered no resistance, like sheep before wolves. But humans were different, Naya continued. Even in our earliest observations, your species showed something we had never seen before. When faced with impossible odds, humans don't give up. They fight back, sometimes irrationally, sometimes brilliantly, but always with a stubbornness. That impressed even us. Sora glanced back from the pilot's seat. You're saying humans are special because we're too stubborn to quit. More than that, Naya's mental voice carried something like hope. Your minds are chaotic in the most beautiful way. Where other species think in orderly patterns that the Devourers can easily consume, human consciousness is like a storm, wild, unpredictable, and incredibly difficult to drain. The military ships were falling behind now, unable to match Sora's piloting skills through the asteroid field at the system's edge. But Minho knew they would follow, and probably call ahead to intercept them before they reached Earth. There's something else, Naya added quietly. The hidden knowledge I carry includes the location of weapons and tools my people scattered across the galaxy. But accessing them requires a psychic link with someone whose mind can anchor mine. Most species would be overwhelmed by the connection. But you think a human could handle it? Minho asked. I think the right human could do more than handle it, Naya replied. And for the first time since awakening, she smiled. I think they could help me unlock powers that even my people never imagined possible. As their ship jumped to hyperspace, heading toward Earth, Minho wondered if humanity was about to discover just how strong they really were. They were still 3 days away from Earth when the news reports started coming in. Sora stared at her communication screen in horror, her hands frozen over the controls. Minho, you need to see this, she whispered. The holographic display showed scenes from major cities around Earth. People were collapsing in the streets, not dead but not truly alive either. They sat with empty eyes, staring at nothing, their minds simply gone. The news anchors struggled to explain what was happening, but even they sounded confused and frightened. It's starting, Naya said, her mental voice heavy with grief. The Devourers reached Earth before us. Minho watched in shock as the report showed millions of people in this strange comatose state. In Tokyo, entire city blocks sat silent except for the sound of abandoned cars still running. In New York, emergency responders moved through crowds of empty-eyed humans unable to help because there was nothing physically wrong with the victims. How is this possible? Minho asked. We left them behind on Kepler 442b. The Devourers don't travel through normal space, Naya explained, images of shadow creatures moving through dimensions filling his mind. They can sense psychic energy across vast distances and follow it like a trail. My awakening called them, and they followed that call straight to humanity's home. Sora pushed their engines harder, but even at maximum speed they were still days away. On the screen, more cities were going dark as the strange plague of consciousness spread across the planet. There has to be something we can do, Minho said desperately. That's when he felt it, a strange warming sensation in his mind. Naya's presence, which had been growing stronger during their journey together, suddenly flared brighter. He could sense her thoughts more clearly now, feel her emotions as if they were his own. The bond, Naya said with surprise. It's working faster than I expected. Your mind is helping mine recover its strength. What bond? Sora asked, looking back from the pilot's seat. When I first spoke to Minho, our consciousness began linking together, Naya explained. It's how my people shared knowledge and power, but I've never tried it with a human before. Minho could feel Naya drawing strength from their connection, her abilities growing stronger each hour. But as Earth grew larger on their screens, he realized it might not be enough. Even with our bond, I'm still just one person, he said. Can you connect with more humans at once? Naya was quiet for a long moment. In theory, yes. But it would require humans willing to open their minds completely, to trust me with their deepest thoughts. Most species find such vulnerability terrifying. As they entered Earth's solar system, they could see the shadow creatures moving around. The planet like a dark cloud. The Devourers were everywhere, feeding on humanity's consciousness with an hunger that seemed endless. Look at this, Sora said, pointing to her scanners. Even with millions of people affected, there are still huge populations fighting back. Look at these energy readings from major cities. Humans are still resisting somehow. Minho stared at the data, an idea forming in his mind. Naya, what if it wasn't just me? What if somehow we could get thousands, maybe millions of humans to link with you at once? That's impossible, Naya replied. The psychic strain would be enormous. No single mind could handle connections with so many people. But what if it wasn't just your mind? Minho pressed. What if human stubbornness could work both ways? Instead of the Devourers draining us, what if we could all push back together? As their ship approached Earth's atmosphere, Minho could see that humanity wasn't going down without a fight. Even with their minds under attack, people were still trying to help each other, still refusing to simply give up. They're not surrendering, he realized. Even unconscious, they're still fighting. That's when the idea hit him. What if humanity's greatest strength wasn't individual resistance, but their ability to stand together when everything seemed hopeless? Their ship landed in Seoul just as the sun was setting over a city that looked like a ghost town. Cars sat abandoned in the middle of streets, their drivers staring blankly ahead. But in the distance, Minho could see lights still moving, people who were somehow still fighting the effects of the Devourer's attack. "We need to get to the Global Communications Center," Minho said as they made their way through the eerily quiet streets. "If we're going to reach everyone on Earth, that's our best shot." Sora led them through back alleys she knew from her childhood in the city. "My friend Juna works there. She's one of the best communication specialists in the world. If anyone can help us broadcast globally, it's her." They found the communications building still functioning, though barely. Most of the staff sat motionless at their desks, victims of the consciousness drain. But on the top floor they found Juna frantically working at multiple screens, trying to coordinate emergency broadcasts. "Sora!" Juna looked up in relief. "Thank goodness you're here. Half my team is gone and I don't understand what's happening. People are just empty." "We can explain everything," Minho said, helping Naya into a chair. She was exhausted from their journey but determined to help. "But first we need your help to reach every person on Earth." Juna stared at Naya with wide eyes. "Is she the key to saving everyone?" Sora finished. "Juna, I know this sounds impossible, but we need to broadcast a message to every television, radio, phone and computer on the planet. Can you do it? In normal circumstances, no," Juna replied, her fingers already flying over her keyboard. "But with the emergency systems activated and most government restrictions lifted, I might be able to patch into everything." "What kind of message?" Minho looked at Naya, who nodded weakly. "Tell them the truth, all of it." 20 minutes later, every working screen on Earth displayed Minho's face. His voice reached into homes, shelters, hospitals, and anywhere humans were still conscious and fighting. "My name is Dr. Minho Kim," he began, his voice steady despite his racing heart. "What I'm about to tell you will sound like science fiction, but it's real. Earth is under attack by creatures that feed on human consciousness. They're called Devourers, and they've already affected millions of our people." He gestured to Naya, who appeared on camera beside him. "This is Naya. She's the last survivor of a species that once protected our galaxy from these creatures. Her people were destroyed, fighting the same enemy that's attacking us now." Around the world, people who were still conscious stopped what they were doing to listen. In Tokyo, a group of doctors paused their work with coma patients. In London, families huddled together in their homes. In New York, emergency workers gathered around portable radios. "The Devourers drain minds by overwhelming individual consciousness," Minho continued. "But humans have something special. We're strongest when we stand together. Naya believes that if enough of us focus our will at the same time, we might be able to fight back." On screen, Naya spoke directly to the camera, her voice somehow reaching not just ears, but minds. "I know asking you to trust a stranger seems impossible, but I can feel your species' strength even now. While others surrender to the Devourers, humans keep fighting. That stubbornness, that refusal to give up, it's exactly what we need." "Here's what we're asking," Minho said. "In exactly 1 hour, at midnight Greenwich time, we want every person still conscious to focus on one thought: protecting Earth and driving away these creatures. Don't think about fear or doubt. Think about everyone you love, everyone you want to protect." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Social media exploded with messages of support. Save Earth began trending. In dozens of languages, people shared the broadcast, called their friends and family, and spread the word to anyone still awake. In hospitals, doctors explained the plan to patients. In schools being used as shelters, teachers gathered children together. Even in the military bunkers where government officials were hiding, the message was being shared. 1 hour, Minho repeated. Together we can do this. As the countdown began, Naya could feel something she had never experienced before. Millions of human minds preparing to link together in defiance of an enemy that had destroyed entire civilizations. The countdown reached 0 at exactly midnight Greenwich time. Around the world, millions of humans closed their eyes and focused their thoughts on one simple idea: protect Earth, protect each other, drive away the darkness. Minho felt it first as a gentle warmth in his mind, like sunrise after a long night. Then the sensation grew stronger, spreading through his consciousness like ripples in a pond. He could sense other minds joining the link. First dozens, then hundreds, then thousands. "It's working," Naya whispered, her eyes wide with amazement. "I can feel them. So many minds all focused on the same goal." In the communications center, Juna watched her screens in disbelief. The energy readings are off the charts. Every major city is showing massive psychic activity. London, Tokyo, New York, Mumbai. It's like the entire planet is lighting up at once. The connection kept growing. Minho could feel a grandmother in Brazil thinking about her grandchildren, a doctor in Kenya refusing to give up on his patients, a teacher in Canada protecting the children in her care. Millions of individual wills combining into something bigger than any single person. "This is impossible," Naya said, but her voice carried wonder instead of doubt. "My people never achieved anything like this. We were powerful individually, but humans, you're creating a collective consciousness while keeping your individual thoughts intact." Minho could feel Naya's ancient knowledge beginning to unlock. As the human psychic energy flowed into her, memories that had been sleeping for centuries suddenly blazed to life in her mind. The locations of hidden weapon caches, the secrets of ethereal technology, battle strategies that had once driven back the Devourers, all of it becoming clear again. But something else was happening too. As more humans joined the mental link, Minho realized they weren't just giving Naya their energy. They were sharing it, creating something entirely new. "Look at her," Sora gasped. Naya's pale skin now glowed with a warm light that seemed to pulse in rhythm with heartbeats around the world. Her silver hair floated around her as if she were underwater, and her eyes had become like windows into deep space filled with stars. "I can see them," Naya said, her mental voice now reaching every connected human mind. "The Devourers, they're confused. They don't understand what's happening." Through the link, millions of people could suddenly sense the shadow creatures that had been draining their world. The Devourers moved through space like living darkness, but now they seemed to be recoiling from Earth as if burned by an invisible fire. "They feed on individual consciousness," Naya explained to all the connected minds at once. "But this collective human will, it's like trying to drink the ocean. They can't process it." Minho felt his own consciousness expanding, connecting not just with Naya, but with every human in the psychic link. He could sense their hopes, their fears, their determination to protect their families and their world. And somehow, that human stubbornness was transforming Naya's ethereal wisdom into something neither species had ever achieved alone. "We're creating something new," he realized, speaking both aloud and through the mental link. "Not just human, not just ethereal, something that combines the best of both." Around the world, the effects were immediate. People who had fallen into comas began to wake up, their eyes clearing as the Devourers' hold on them weakened. The shadow creatures that had been circling Earth like vultures now seemed to be fleeing, unable to maintain their grip on a planet defended by such unified will. "How long can we maintain this?" asked a voice in the collective consciousness, a soldier from Australia who was protecting a group of refugees. "As long as we need to," came the answer from millions of minds at once, speaking as one while remaining individual. For the first time in a century, Naya smiled with genuine hope, knowing that humanity had just become something the galaxy had never seen before. With millions of human minds connected to her, Naya rose from her chair like a goddess awakening. The combined psychic energy flowing through her had unlocked powers that even her ancient people had never dreamed possible. Her eyes blazed with starlight as she reached out with her consciousness toward the shadow creatures surrounding Earth. "Now, we fight back," she declared, her mental voice reaching every connected human mind across the planet. Minho could feel the battle beginning in ways his eyes couldn't see. Through the psychic link, he sensed Naya pushing against the Devourers with pure force of will, backed by the stubborn determination of billions of humans who refused to surrender their world. The shadow creatures recoiled like they had been struck by lightning. For eons they had consumed civilizations by overwhelming individual minds one at a time. But humanity's collective consciousness was like trying to swallow a star. Too massive, too bright, too burning with defiant energy. "They're retreating," Zora said, watching her instruments in amazement. "The energy signatures around Earth are pulling back." But Naya wasn't content to just drive them away from Earth. Through the psychic network, millions of humans could feel her reaching further, into space, following the fleeing devourers back toward the dark corners of the galaxy where they had been hiding. "We're going to end this," Naya announced to the connected minds. "For my people, for your people, for every species they've ever consumed." A factory worker in Detroit suddenly found himself experiencing Naya's memories of the Great War that destroyed the ethereals. A farmer in rural China felt the pain of watching entire worlds go silent as the devourers fed. A nurse in São Paulo shared the desperate hope of a species making their last stand against overwhelming darkness. And through it all, humanity pushed back with their own experiences. Every time they had faced impossible odds and refused to quit. Every moment they had chosen to help others instead of saving themselves. Every act of courage, stubbornness, and pure human determination flowed through the link. The devourers found themselves facing something they had never encountered. Prey that fought back not just individually, but as a unified force that grew, stronger the more it was threatened. Across the galaxy, other alien species watched in shock through their deep space sensors. The energy readings coming from Earth's sector were unlike anything in recorded history. In the Galactic Council chambers, emergency sessions were called as representatives tried to understand what was happening. Some species that had been hiding from the devourers for generations suddenly detected the shadow creatures fleeing through space, abandoning territories they had held for centuries. "It's the humans," reported a Zephyrian commander, whose people had been fighting a losing battle against devourer scouts. "Somehow, they're driving them back. The creatures that destroyed the ethereals are running from a species that only achieved spaceflight a few centuries ago." Back on Earth, Naya could feel the devourers' confusion and growing fear. They had become so used to easy victories that they had forgotten how to fight an enemy that refused to be consumed. Every time they tried to drain human consciousness, they met not surrender, but fierce resistance backed by the memories and wisdom of an ancient guardian species. "Look," Juna called out, pointing to her screens showing space around Earth. "They're not just retreating, they're scattering, breaking apart into smaller groups." Through the psychic link, Naya smiled with savage satisfaction. "They're learning what my people learned too late, that some prey fights back. And when humans fight back, they don't stop until the threat is gone." The counterattack continued as humanity and their ethereal guide pushed the ancient enemy further and further away, reclaiming space that had been dark for 100 years. 3. Months after the Great Battle, Earth had become the center of something unprecedented in galactic history. Ships from dozens of alien species arrived daily, their crews wanting to understand how humanity had achieved what no other civilization could manage. Minho stood in the newly built Guardian Academy in Geneva, watching the first class of human. Students learned to expand their psychic abilities under Naya's guidance. Children who had been part of the Great Linking were showing remarkable talents, able to sense disturbances in space that even advanced alien technology couldn't detect. "Are you sure about this?" Minho asked Naya as they walked through the facility, together. "You could return to sleep, wait for your people to somehow return. Instead, you're choosing to stay with us." Naya smiled, her luminescent skin now carrying a warm glow that seemed more human somehow. "My people are gone, Minho. But through our bond, through what we created together, they live on in a new way. Humanity has become something my species never was, guardians who protect not through superior power, but through unity and stubborn refusal to let evil win." In the months since the Devourer's defeat, scattered reports had come in from across the galaxy. The shadow creatures hadn't been destroyed, but they had been broken apart and driven to the furthest edges of known space. More importantly, other species were beginning to stand up to threats they had previously thought unstoppable. The Galactic Council wants to make it official, Sora said, joining them with a stack of documents. She had become humanity's first ambassador to the Council, representing Earth in galactic politics. They're offering humanity membership as a guardian species, with all the responsibilities that comes with. It was an honor that had never been offered to such a young species. Usually, civilizations needed thousands of years of development before they were trusted with protecting others. But humanity had proven that sometimes experience mattered less than heart. What does that mean exactly? Asked Jiwon, who had become the head of the new psychic research division. She had gotten over her initial fear and thrown herself into understanding the science behind what they had achieved. It means when other worlds call for help, we answer, Minho replied. When new threats emerge, we're the ones who face them first. We become the shield that protects species who can't protect themselves. Through their permanent psychic link, Naya shared images of what this future could look like. Human guardian teams working alongside other species, teaching them the techniques of collective resistance. Space stations where humans and aliens work together to monitor for new threats. A galaxy where the strong protected the weak instead of exploiting them. The best part, Naya added, is that we're not doing this alone. Every human who was part of the Great Linking still carries that connection. In emergencies, we can call upon that same collective will that defeated the Devourers. Juna, now head of the Global Communications Network, had set up systems that could activate the psychic link within minutes if needed. Millions of humans had volunteered to be permanent anchors, ready to lend their mental strength whenever the galaxy faced a new crisis. So we're really doing this, Minho said, looking out at the stars through the Academy's windows. Humanity is becoming the guardians of the galaxy. Not becoming, Naya corrected gently. We already are. The moment your species chose to stand, together instead of falling apart, you proved that the youngest civilizations can sometimes teach the oldest ones what true strength really means. As night fell over Earth, millions of humans went to sleep knowing they were part of something bigger than themselves. They had faced the darkness that consumed civilizations and refused to be consumed. Now, they stood ready to ensure that no other species would face that darkness alone. The age of human guardians had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same.